But
you mean when you broke my British record? Okay, cool.
Girl,
you didn't prepare me for this question.
That's why I want to kind of do it like in a little.
Obviously, as an old wise auntie on the other side of retirement. Hi guys, Tiffany Ofili Porter here, where I discuss all things life after sport. As you can see here, I have my sister, Cindy. This is going to be another collaboration video. We're going to be asking some questions. She is currently training for her 3rd Olympic Games. And as you know, I'm a retired athlete. So we're going to discuss kind of what life looks like as a current athlete versus a retired one. So let's get into it.
All right. So the first question I want to ask you, sis, is what was one of your most successful races and what did you learn from it?
One of my most successful races, I mean, I had quite a few if we're keeping it real, but one thing that really resonates with me was my European Indoor Championships, where I got bronze and you got silver. But I think that really resonated with me because I was coming off of having my daughter. You were coming off of an Achilles injury. And one massive lesson I learned from that race in particular is the power of just being resilient and the power of bouncing back and the power of kind of defying the odds to get something done.
That was such a special race. I remember that day. It was so cool. I'll insert some photos here, but pretty much it was just like very reminiscent of just both of our stories, like of just literally coming back from, you know, just something that people don't usually come back from. Sometimes you see people come back from having children, but it's not as common nowadays. I guess it's more common nowadays, you think?
I mean, it's common, but I mean, it doesn't make it any less special. You know what I mean?
It was definitely special. And I think for me, that race was just super special because just seeing the joy in both of our hearts at the same time and to be able to do that together was just so dope. I really loved that.
I loved it so much. And I really appreciate the fact that you were able to do it despite some of the haters, I ain't gonna say no names, saying that you would never be the same athlete again. And you would never be able to run at that level. And you came and proved everybody wrong and proved yourself right.
Yeah, man, it's really crazy. And just even the year before, just like seeing you with Chi-Chi and just how young she was, it was really cool. I would say for me, one of the biggest races that stood out for me was was Eugene of 2022. I think that was a really big year for me because first of all, it was a personal best. But
you mean when you broke my British record? Okay, cool. Gosh, she just had to bring that one up. No problem.
But because of that race, I think it just instilled like a confidence in me.
Yes.
Because for so many years I hadn't PB'd and I was just like, I don't know if I can actually be better than I was because of all like the lies, not lies, but all of the people who told me that it might not be possible. And so it just reminded me like, yeah, you can be better after coming back from something so hard. And it was just really cool to like kind of come full circle and have my first world championship final and also do well in it. It was really special. So.
But you definitely did PB the year before when my husband was coaching you. So don't do that to Jeff. You PB'd the year. Yes, you did.
You know, I did.
But I know what you mean. Still an extremely special moment nonetheless.
Very special. Speaking of resilience, what has resilience looked like for you in sport when you did run and versus now, you know, just as a mother and doing other things? Like, what does that look like for you?
Resilience, man. It's such a simple word, but yet it means so much. So one thing that always comes up is my journey to motherhood. I've talked about it before. I share my testimony to help other people. I'm going to post the video right here for you guys to check out. But essentially, having gone through miscarriages, loss, feelings of hopelessness, so much sadness, and then being able to overcome that, you know, with lots of prayer, my husband and my little support system to now become a mom of 2. I think sport and the disappointments that I experienced in it prepared me to kind of overcome obstacles as a human outside of sport.
Yeah, I would say like watching you during that time, like I just saw a strength in you that was still developed that I don't think could have happened with track. Like obviously track had a lot of hardship and stuff for you, but like that time was so hard for you. I could see that, and just like seeing you come back from that, I think released a lot of pressure when you did come back on the track.
100%.
Because it was like now you're running with like a different purpose.
100%. And I kind of feel, even though we have very different stories, I'm 36, you're 29, and we're in different stages of life. Would you say that you coming back instilled a confidence in you and you have a different purpose now as you're running?
Yes. I mean, before I was running track, just kind of like, I don't know if fear is the right word, but with fear, almost like, okay, if I don't run well, then this is going to happen. And all these other things where I got hurt for years or a year. And I was like, I can't do this right now. So what am I going to do in my life? And I kind of realized that track is not everything. And that was the thing that I think was a problem for me. And so now that I can just like, kind of run without that fear and like just knowing like, you know, you've been through so much that was difficult. I know I can do more now on the track. And I think I wouldn't have had that had I not gone through the injury.
Absolutely. I mean, you talked about my strength, but sis, your strength was absolutely remarkable. I was literally with her shooting in the gym, you guys. From unfortunately the moment the injury happened,
you were literally in the race.
Yeah, running next to you, seeing that frustration, tear, sadness, to then overcoming that, going on to the Olympics, going on to World Championships, breaking British records, becoming British champion. So many things you were able to do despite that.
Yeah,
it really is encouraging. So I think, like, kind of going off of that, one lesson I took from it is encouraging the next generation to never give up.
Yes, that's huge. Because, like, I mean, if both of us just kind of like gave up in those situations, like, we wouldn't be here today. And honestly, think like you have to just keep pushing no matter what you're going through, and it's easier said than done, obviously. But you have to just continue to remind yourself of the bigger picture, and like tell yourself that you can get through anything.
Yeah. So now that obviously I've retired, I've been to 3 Olympics, you're training for your 3rd Olympic Games. Can you kind of tell us what the mindset is going into this year?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So kind of touching back on what I said earlier about fear. Every other year I kind of have like this fear of like, okay, is this going to happen? Or am I going to, I always had so much pressure. That's more of what I'm trying to say. Is I had a lot of pressure on myself, and going into this year, I'm releasing that. That is something I'm not doing anymore. It's just having that pressure of I have to perform. I have to do this. No, I get to do this is what I kind of tell myself now. And so I think just for me and also other athletes, like, it's important to remember this is a gift. This is something we should be enjoying and have fun with. We shouldn't put so much pressure on ourselves. And I know going into the fact that I've been training forever for this, I'm prepared, and I know I will be prepared once the time does come. I would say that's the biggest thing. It's just not being so scared of like what the outcome is going to be, but just having fun in the process of it.
100%. And you said something that really just touched me. You said you had almost like a perspective shift instead of I have to do this versus I get to do this.
I think we forget that.
We forget that. And that's true even now in retirement. As a mom, you know, it's a lot. I have a 7-month-old and a 4.5-year-old. They're in 2 different stages. They want a lot. And motherhood can be kind of hectic. It's beautiful chaos, as I like to call it. But I definitely had to like stop myself sometimes when I get like start complaining or not appreciating this stage that I am, that I desperately pray for, and just realize, yo, Tiffany, this is a huge privilege to be a mother. You definitely pray for this. And this is not something that you have to do, but something that you get to do.
Yes. Because not everybody gets this opportunity. Like in track and field, but also motherhood.
Yes.
And so I think it's just so easy to take it for granted. Like, we have to make sure we keep that in perspective daily. And I think that's just been such a difference for me. And I have so much more joy going into practice with that mindset of like, I get to do this. I was hurt once and I couldn't do this, and now I can. Let's have fun and not put pressure on ourselves. So I think that's the biggest thing.
100%.
My next question for you is, what is one thing you would want your younger self to know if you could go back and tell yourself?
This kind of pulls me back to another video I did, 20 things they don't tell you about sports retirement. And honestly, I mean, it's not necessarily even track, well, it's track related, but I think realizing how big of a deal sport is, but yet how little of a deal it is at the same time. So let me explain. I mean, obviously when you're in it, you are training for your Olympics, blood, sweat, tears, you are out there focused on a goal because you know that it's a very short amount of time that you have this opportunity. But once you do step away from it, you realize that it was an incredible moment in your life and it was such a fantastic experience, but it's not life or death.
Yes.
I think sometimes we place so much stock into things of this world or into, you know, exterior pressures that we sometimes lose sight of what's truly important in life. So I obviously, as an old wise auntie on the other side of retirement, I just want to encourage you to just enjoy this moment, sis. You're going to look up and be like, yo, was I ever really an athlete? Because it happened so fast.
That's huge. I mean, it's a good reminder for us as athletes because we put so much effort into it, and we should. I mean, that's our job, right? But at the same time, it's like we shouldn't take it too seriously in a sense, to the fact where like it's all of who we are. And that's kind of the thing I kind of would share to my younger self, kind of going back to what I said earlier, is your identity is not in your sport. Like, we have to remember that we are more than just athletes. Yes, it's a big deal. And yes, that's, you know, what we do, but it's not who we are. Despite if the results are good or if they're bad. I mean, like sometimes we can get in our high horse when it's like, oh, we're doing so well, therefore I'm great in life. Versus when it's going bad, you take it personally. It's just like, no, this is a job and everybody has good and bad days. And I think that's like the biggest lesson is your identity is not in your sport, and definitely don't put it so high above everything else that nothing else matters. So as a mother of 2 now, and just, you know, a pharmacist and all the cool things that you're doing, how has sport prepared you for life right now?
Sport, oh man, there are so many intangibles that you gain from being an athlete. And one of the first things that comes to my mind is the ability to perform under pressure. Because, yeah, I mean, I do wear a lot of hats and, you know, being a mom, you know, business owner, creator, content creator, blogger, all the things, real estate investor, wife, sister, it's a lot. So I just think remembering that I was built for this. Like you as an athlete, as you know, you run in front of thousands of people and you are putting a lot of stock into one 12-second race. And I mean, it can be a little pressure inducing, but being an athlete and being able to do that, it makes everything else kind of pale in comparison when you're outside of sport. So that's one huge lesson that I'm taking into, you know, now into retirement. And I mean, would you agree as a current athlete?
Yeah, I absolutely would. I think there's just so much stuff that we can learn as athletes, like the pressure you have to deal with and just like be able to multitask in different ways. And there's just so many things that I think personally, like I take it to my next job when I'm done with track. The lessons I'm learning now in track are teaching me things that like when bad things happen outside of track, I can just be like, oh, well, I've dealt with hard before. I know what this feels like. So I know I can take this into the situation. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually a certified teacher. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that, you know, that is something I can do when I'm done, I know that whatever I'm learning here, I can translate that into my teaching, or even though I'm educating on YouTube or educating the next generation in coaching, whatever that is. Just there's so many lessons I can take away from track when it comes to the pressure or the way I eat or the lessons I learn with sleep, and I can take that into that. So that's definitely something I can apply to my life.
You mentioned eating, diet, and exercise. That is one huge intangible that you don't even realize that you gain from being an athlete when you are in retirement. Huge, because now, yes, I'm no longer training to be like in tip-top shape for an athlete, but I know how to get in shape and how to, you know, eat healthy and exercise and get your body right and use food as fuel to kind of just get you wherever you need to go. So right now I'm currently trying to shed back down to my pre-pregnancy weight. I think I've lost like 50 pounds. I have like 10 more to go.
Hey, that's great. Okay, her baby is 7 months old. Okay, look at this girl. She looks good.
Oh, you're so kind, sis. I'm gonna take the compliment. Thank you very much. But yeah, I think that's another intangible from sport that we sometimes don't necessarily realize is that you definitely know how to exercise, how to eat right, and use your food for fuel.
Right. I mean, sport is a lifestyle. I mean, everything we do is like regarding to how we eat and sleep and drink. Everything is literally related to our sport.
So being that I am retired now, I would like to ask you as a current athlete, Olympic athlete, professional athlete who's been killing it, by the way. Just look her up, y'all. Go ahead to her page and check her out. What advice would you give to the next generation? I know you're still into it, but I mean, you can inspire the generation while you're still competing, obviously.
Absolutely. Hard work is key. I know it's very cliche, but I mean, your work ethic is going to make a huge, huge difference. I didn't realize this. And going back to the injury we discussed earlier, I found myself having to work harder than I did when I was in college because I had to come back from it. And so there were so many little things with physical therapy and just strengthening muscles and like just being patient in that process that had I not had it, I don't think I'd have the work ethic I have now. And so it instilled something in me that shows like, hey, if you really pay attention to those small details, it adds up. And I think that's how I set a new personal best in a couple of years afterwards, and how I've been able to feel the strongest I've ever been because I set personal best in the weight room. And so just don't sleep on your work ethic. I know it does make a big difference. And yeah, the little things add up, and eventually you'll look up and be like, wow, it actually paid off.
100%. One of my favorite quotes that I live by is, I don't even know if it's a quote. I'm going to make it a quote. That hard work will take you places where motivation can't carry you.
Or talent can't take you to. I heard that.
Oh, well, yeah. I kind of added my own spice on it. But yeah, like honestly, some days you're not going to feel motivated. Some days you ain't going to feel like getting up and homeschooling your daughter when she wants to color and play and do this and do that. But you get it done, right?
Absolutely.
You make it happen because you have your priorities and you know what's important.
Yeah. My last question for you is, how would you define greatness?
Ooh, girl, you didn't prepare me for this question.
I know. That's why I want to kind of do it like in a little different way.
Okay, how would I define greatness? Oh my goodness. I think greatness is putting your best foot forward, living life with integrity, inspiring and pulling up others as you come. Because I mean, it's one thing to be out there and be successful and to be killing it in your arena, but how are you making your circle, your sphere of influence better because of your presence? You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, girl, that was, yes. But now I got to ask you, because I'm sure you didn't think about your answer. So how would you define greatness, sister?
I would say living each day with purpose. We are all called to do something. And I think just kind of going through the motions every day is not what we're meant to do. We need to be intentional. We need to have purpose. And that doesn't always mean that you're breaking world records or you're, doing something so large. You can do something small by just helping somebody out, like one of your friends or your parents or whatever that is, but just living each day with purpose, because one, we don't know when the last day is, right?
Yes.
And two, you just don't want to have any regrets. You don't want to have any regrets in life. Yeah. So just knowing that everything you're doing is going to have some type of outcome, reminding yourself that you have intention here and God has a plan for you, and just keeping that at the forefront of your mind.
100%. Now, you preach, girl, because that was good. And that's it for the video, sis. Thanks so much for joining us. As you can see, she's currently training, so go ahead and head to her page so you can follow along on her Olympic journey. What's your handle?
Cindy Ofili on Instagram and CindyDecember1 on YouTube and CindyDecember on TikTok.
There you go. Thanks so much, guys. Tiff Ofili Porter, where I discuss all things life after sport, and I will holler at y'all. Peace.